Canada's migrant worker program is riddled with abuse and fraud under the Liberals' watch, proving that their oversight, or lack thereof, has failed not only to protect workers vulnerable of exploitation, but also to ensure the program's integrity for all Canadians. Let's dig in.
We will work to attract the best talent in the world to build our economy.
For years, Canada's temporary foreign worker program, called TFWP, has been a festering mess under the Liberal government, fueling a black market in migrant permits while sidelining Canadian workers. A June Labour Department briefing note titled Labour Market Impact Assessment Misuse Exposed by Blacklocks confirms what critics long suspected. Permits are being traded like commodities, enriching shady domestic and international operators. Now, just to point out here that LMIAs are Labour Market Impact Assessments. They're documents required by Canadian employers to hire foreign workers. A positive or approved LMIA confirms that there was no Canadian citizen or permanent resident available for the job, and therefore it's supposed to show that there is a genuine need for a foreign worker. But the memo bluntly states, LMIA misuse includes both the buying and selling of LMIAs, as well as the unethical recruitment and exploitation of vulnerable foreign nationals for personal and financial gain. Immigration Minister Mark Miller admitted the program's explosive growth. Permits surged 88% and international mobility program permits 126% in 4 years, with nearly 1.6 million work permit holders being granted in 2023. That accounts for 7% of Canada's roughly 22 million labor force. This flood of cheap labor has suppressed wages and strained housing and healthcare, all while Ottawa looked the other way. A May briefing note reveals over 3 million temporary residents arrived in 2024, with temporary foreign workers making up roughly 250,000 of them, though the IMP numbers remain conveniently absent from this report. The government downplays the impact, but reluctantly acknowledges public backlash, with the program blamed for everything from inflating housing costs to undercutting wages and overburdening healthcare. Yet they still defend migrants as crucial for sectors like agriculture, construction, and tourism. Why? Well, because successive governments prioritized cheap labor over investing in Canadian training or fair wages. As the crisis becomes increasingly unable to ignore, recent half measures implemented by this same government feels only like damage control. Up to 50% of employers may now face enhanced inspections, a step that I say should have been standard. Former Employment Minister Randy Boissonneau's claim that it's time to ease our reliance on foreign workers comes only years after Liberal-enabled expansion. A 2021 report already showed what kind of fraud, manipulation, and abuse was happening. Employers not paying wages they committed to during the LMIA process, hiring workers whose permits had expired, then paying them cash at significantly lower rates than the wages established by LMIA, coercing workers to do extra work without proper compensation, like cleaning and driving in harsh weather conditions and or for extended hours, making our roads increasingly treacherous and unsafe, or employers forcing the employee to give them a portion of their wage to offset the cost related to the costs incurred by the employer for the workers' hiring, like the LMIA work permit fees. This evaluation further acknowledges that the foreign worker program was risking wage suppression in sectors like carpentry, fish packing, and trucking. So the government sat on this for 4 years until public outrage forced this long overdue response. And still, the scale of illegal permits remains undisclosed as Ottawa tries to hide its continued gross mismanagement of all of this. Real reform demands dismantling the incentives for abuse, starting with ending the program's role as a crutch for businesses and a prop for government virtue signaling on the global scale. The Band-Aid fixes proposed by the Liberals are just a futile attempt to save face, while exploitation and economic devastation run this deep. Canadians deserve a system that prioritizes their jobs, wages, and communities, not one that sacrifices them on the altar of cheap labor and political posturing. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Welcome to your new Canada, not like the old Canada we cherished, respected, and adored. If you'd like to see all of our reports on the immigration file that is changing Canada as we once knew it, you can do so at yournewcanada.com. Please consider supporting our fearless journalism on this topic and sign our petition there at yournewcanada.com.